Hello students, welcome to Rhetorical Criticism Com 405. My name is Dr. Romo and this is our first lecture of the term. I'm very excited to serve as your professor this semester. As I briefly introduce myself, I created a slide here for our video presentation that shows you my family. Like I said, my name is Dr. Sandra Romo. I've been working here at CBU for the past 8 years, so I'm in my 8th year teaching here in the communication program. I've also taught within the public relations program and some of our graduate programs for our master's in communication as well as public relations. So as you take a look here, you can see I just posted some pictures of my husband and Mark and I have been married for 10 years. We have 2 children. My son is Nicholas and my daughter is Emma. We're big Green Bay Packer fans. We love football. You know, it's definitely a Sunday thing after church. We sit down and we all kind of enjoy the day relaxing and watching football. It's something we love to do. We're also big baseball fans. We love the Angels baseball team. Aside from all of that, in some of my spare time, I serve as the troop leader for my daughter's Girl Scout troop. It's something I'm really passionate about. I really enjoy investing in young girls at a very young age and just empowering them to be leaders in their community and have the confidence to do things that they feel like they can do. And it's just really great to help out with that. As we move through some of the other course content, it's important to take a look at how to get in touch with me. That's something that we definitely need to go over. I will tell you now the fastest and most efficient way to get in touch with me is via email, and you see my email there within Lancer Mail. Do note when you are sending me emails, it must be sent via Lancer Mail. As per FERPA, it's a federal government guideline. We're not allowed to communicate with students in any other way, any other form of email communication unless it's through the university email system. So don't email me from any other account. I won't respond. We're not allowed to respond. I will only email you, respond to you from a Lancer Mail account. So your CBU email. You definitely can get in touch with me by phone or meet with me in person during my office hours or by appointment. My office hours are Monday from 8 to 1 and Tuesday from 10 to 1. But I'm also available throughout the week, and definitely reach me by phone. But the fastest and most efficient way is through email. I respond pretty quickly. It's synced to my phone, and that's usually the best way to get in touch with me. Additionally, as like I said, I'm an assistant professor of communication here, but I also serve as the program director for our master's in communication and bachelor's in communication studies programs. So I kind of have direct oversight and implementation over a lot of the things that deal with your communication degree, if that's what you're majoring in, and would love to talk to you about some of those things if you have some questions about that. As we move through some of the other content, let's take a look at some important things to note from the syllabus. Now, these are just some excerpts from the syllabus. This is not triumph the syllabus. It's just information from it that I felt like we needed to pull out and highlight at this point in the term. So anytime you have a discussion board assignment, something that's linked to a discussion board, there are 2 deadlines. Other than that, everything adheres to the Sunday night by 11:59 p.m. deadline. The only exception for that would be in week 8. Deadlines do vary significantly in week 8, so definitely check that now and make a note in your calendar or whatever it may be so you're well aware of that before we get to week 8. Discussion boards though have 2 deadlines, and there's a lot of reasons behind that. So your original post, the actual answer to the assignment, is due by Friday, and then your reply posts are due by Sunday, and you always need to reply to at least 2 other students with substantiated responses. That means you need to say something more than great job. So you need to read through their post, expand on it, and get some information out of there that you feel is very relevant to what you're doing, and maybe provide critical feedback. The reason for this is that we've found across the board within our program that it's best if we have a split deadline for this assignment, so that way we're being respectful of everybody's time. There's been numerous situations where students aren't posting their discussion board until late Sunday night, and so some students who've already posted it have to go back and wait until it's been posted to the discussion board to reply. So to help mitigate that scenario, we've program-wide have implemented a thing where discussion boards are due either on Thursday or Friday, and responses are due by Sunday. Also, take note of what my late work policy is. It's very, very, very simple. I don't accept late work under any circumstance. This is an accelerated course, as you know, so I'm doing my best to put as much information that would be covered within 16 weeks into 8 weeks. So with that, we don't have the luxury possibility of going back or accepting things once they've already been submitted or once the deadline has already passed, because we just don't have the time. It's not possible. So plan ahead, especially during terms that may, weeks that you may be busier than others and things of that nature. You think you may be traveling. Late work, there's no exception to the policy, so there are no excuses where late work is accepted. So please plan ahead in that sense. Airport delays, Wi-Fi issues, things like that, that are out of your control, you must always plan ahead for that, because I will tell you, more often than not, it typically happens around a major assignment and things of that nature. So don't wait till the 11th hour is what I'm saying. If you know you may be out of town for something, get in touch with me early. We'll come up with a different deadline. It won't be past the due date, but it will be in enough time for you to get the work done before your trip or things of that nature. Lastly, keep in mind that these weekly lectures are required. It's embedded into your course time, the time that you're supposed to spend allotted online in order for your degree to certify and things of that nature. We have to report to our accrediting body that we are making sure students spend this much time within the course, and this lecture is accounted into that weekly time. So do keep that in mind. Additionally, I wanted to briefly go over some things to, some things to expect within the course. So as we go through this, keep in mind, there we go. Keep in mind, you may be familiar with this. Blackboard may not be foreign to you. It may be something that you're very familiar with. And so with that, that's okay. But if it's not, I wanted to point some things out that are relevant to my course. So all of your weekly lectures will be posted in the announcements section. You see me highlighting with my cursor. That means each week when it comes out, there will be an email update. All weekly lectures are usually posted by Monday. In some instances, they are posted by Tuesday. So if that happens, definitely once you get the email or when you go into the course, go to the My Announcements section, click More Announcements, and the announcement will pop up. All of the announcement videos are posted to YouTube. That's to optimize viewing options for yourself, and it's more universal across any platform or device. So you can listen to it on your way to work, you can watch it whenever, and view it repeated times or whatever. Maybe it's on YouTube, it's public, it's easy to find. Additionally, the way the course looks, and this is a sample of just a generic course, not necessarily our course, breaks the agenda down each week into 3 categories. It has a read, watch, and complete section. So reading, that's the content we're reading, that's the course text or any other readings that are required for the week. The watch section are required videos for viewing that week. Those videos are required, they're embedded into the course minutes and really help enhance your instruction and understanding of the material as you progress throughout the course, and really kind of provides a threefold option. So we're assuming 1, you're reading the course text like you should. 2, you're watching the video lecture like it's required, so you're getting information from me each week. And then 3, you're watching these videos that come from the text and come from the lecture that kind of connect the dots to everything. So it might be something we would have done if we were meeting in a face-to-face class. Then you move on to complete, and you actually complete the assignments. So you have multiple options to really get the meat of the information that's being discussed that week to help you move through the course content. Additionally, as we move through the course content, this is a brief glance of what your grade center looks like. So if you need to view something within your grade center, it's important to see that when you get to the My Grades section, you actually click on the actual text for the assignment name. That is hyperlinked, and what happens is you will get to this screen here that tells you the attempts to view. So you click on this hyperlinked text, this will pop up. You then click on your calculated grade, which is hyperlinked, and it will post to this. It'll give you your submission and the question, and if there's any feedback, you will click View Instructor Feedback, or it will show up as well. You also can click over here to view the rubric if there is a rubric attached. That's how you view your grades in case you were unsure at all or you're not quite sure how to access instructor feedback. Typically, I put most of my responses to you in this response feedback section in box number 3. And that's designed just to kind of help you out and have further understanding of some important content. I usually reserve extensive feedback for scores that are under 80%. And let me tell you why. Anything that's above 80% in the 80 to 90% range is considered above average or excellent. A B means above average and A means excellent. So anything that's above average or excellent work means you are doing what you should be doing. Nothing is perfect that you turn in. We're not at that point in any degree program where you have reached perfection. And so it's not probably in your best interest to expect perfection. So with that, it would be normal if you get 93 out of 100, that's A work and you've done what you're supposed to do. So I usually will give minimal feedback, if any, on assignments that are above 80%, and I reserve extensive feedback for assignments that are lower than 80%. Typically within that 20% range there from 80 to 100% on an assignment, typically we'll deal with APA issues, maybe grammatical issues, maybe not enough elaboration. You answered the question, but you could have gone a little deeper. Those are usually the three things there. I am a stickler in grading for APA format and style. That's the format in communication studies that's used across the board at all universities. We do not use MLA, and that's not something that should be very familiar to you. So definitely use APA, and full APA is required for all assignments, cover page, abstract, everything, references. In order to score in that above 80 to 90% range, it's important to use outside sources as well. Just utilizing the course text means you've read and you understood the material that's being taught to you this week. Using an outside source, a reputable academic outside source, shows you are going above the average and striving to do excellent work, meaning you're corroborating what you found with another source. And that's the first step to moving into scholarship and being a scholarly pursuit, especially if you decide to go into graduate studies someday. That's very important. So that's kind of my rationale there for that. So this week, here's a snapshot of the agenda. We're reading chapter 1 and 2 in our course text, which is this blue text here. For those of you who have not seen it in the flesh, you are watching 4 different videos. They're all fairly short in nature, about under 10 minutes each. The APA format video is very important. It goes over all of the things that I expect from you in APA. It also gives you a crash course in case you haven't utilized it frequently in your courses. And then you're completing weekly review number 1. The original post is due Friday and the reply posts are due on Sunday. So let me move my video screen here so I don't block what you need to know. As you move through weekly review number 1, it's important that we're going to be looking at the history of rhetoric, meanings, usages, and origins of the term rhetoric. And what you'll be doing is looking them up and utilizing 2 of the sites or books listed here, either the Oxford English Dictionary, the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, Encyclopedia Britannica Online, a Webster's Dictionary, something of that nature. You'll be looking for at least 2 definitions, and you're going to compare and contrast the definitions of the term rhetoric. You're also going to tell me how old is the study of rhetoric and communication, and what are the differences between communication and communications, which you may not have realized, but there are differences. And then the fourth thing you will give a brief overview of Aristotle's and Plato's forms of rhetoric and what they define rhetoric as. This response will be 350 words minimum as a discussion board due on Friday, and your reply posts will be 150 words each to at least 2 students, and those replies are due by Sunday, so do keep that in mind. As we move through the lecture this week, and it is a little longer, and I apologize for that, we just have some general housekeeping things to go through. We're going to be looking at what is rhetoric. Now, the text gives us this really, really good overview of 3 things rhetoric is, and it's found in the beginning pages of chapter 1. But specifically, rhetoric is the study of what is persuasive. We're looking at persuasive communication. It's also the purposive use of messages to invite assent. And rhetoric is the craft of producing reason-giving discourse that is grounded in social truths. So we're going to explore this a little more deeply this week. And the first thing we're going to look at is persuasive communication. It's very important that when we look at rhetoric, we understand that we're utilizing persuasive communication. But we're doing this in a number of ways, ethically being the first thing, but also trying to achieve at least 5 things. Persuasive communication is the goal is to achieve stimulation, it's to be convincing, it's to call to action, it's to increase consideration, and it's to build tolerance for alternative perspectives. It means that we are stimulating, if we're a source and we're sending a message, we are stimulating our receiver or audience in some way. We are trying to convince them. We're either trying to call them to action, which means we want them to act on something on our behalf. We want them to increase their consideration or thought on a particular topic, and or to build tolerance for alternative perspectives. Really, persuasion in this sense is attempting to influence people's beliefs, attitudes, intentions, motivations, or behaviors in relation to an event, idea, or object or other person. To do this, we're going to utilize pathos, ethos, and logos. And so when we look at this, these are three critical components to rhetoric and the rhetorical triangle, which we're going to talk about in a second. That's why you see the triangle here. So logos is logos, pathos, and ethos are three ways that we utilize rhetoric and persuasive communication. So all persuasive communication should fall within one of these three areas. The first one is logos. That's logic, reason, or proof. That's really where we're structuring our speech using references of statistics, case studies, comparisons, analogies, metaphors. We're basing our argument and our persuasive communication on logic and proof. We can physically show something or some type of logic behind it. That's the compelling, persuasive nature of the communication by logic and proof. The next point is pathos. That's where we're using emotions and values. So we're calling our persuasive communication to come at us in another perspective. What we're using rather is emotions and values to hit home and persuade the receiver of our communication. So we're telling stories, inspirational quotes, using vivid language. We're trying to connect with them on an emotional or a value-driven perspective. The next one is ethos, which actually ties into emotions as well, but we're focusing on the area of credibility and trust. So we're using our personal brand, we're being confident in what we're delivering, we're using sources to support what we're having to say, and we're relying on building credibility and trust as our main form of persuasive communication. These are always used within rhetoric in some way. So when we're going to do a rhetorical analysis in this course, it's embedded into the nature of what we do. We'll get into that more in the coming weeks. And so when you build this rhetorical analysis of an artifact, you're analyzing some particular form of persuasive communication. One way to clearly do this is through the use of logos, pathos, and ethos. Was there logic? Was there emotion and values? And did it build credibility and trust? That's a legitimate way to give value to your artifact when we get into these rhetorical analyses. As you can see here, we're going to talk about the rhetorical triangle. I'm going to switch back to the other screen. See how they clearly fit within each other? So as we look at this, the rhetorical triangle are three things we're trying to hit in the point in any effective rhetorical piece: the speaker, the subject, and the audience. And as we do that, we can answer questions to connect the speaker to the subject by: what does the author know or think that she knows? What claim of expertise does the author have? We can connect the subject to the audience by answering a question that says, what does the reader know or think she knows about the subject? And then connecting the audience to the speaker would be, what is the speaker trying to persuade the audience? What's the relationship they have to the audience? So we have to connect all of our information or our artifact or persuasive communication within a rhetorical triangle, as well as connecting it to logos, pathos, and ethos. This is very important to understand as we get into this idea of rhetoric. Rhetoric meaning we're putting in communication into the form of an artifact. So that's a speech, an image, anything really that is being communicated to something or someone. And as we do that, we're fitting it into this triangle where we're trying to fit the speaker, subject, and audience within logos, pathos, or ethos. So in order to do that and to be persuasive, that's really where the pendulum swings within rhetoric. It's important to know that rhetoric is also the purposive use of messages to invite assent. And as we do that, it's really, really important that we know that rhetoric is defined by its function, not by a communication medium, topic, or social location. It's defined by its function. So what is it doing? There isn't a medium or communication technology that we use that defines rhetoric. Rather, it's defined by its function or purpose. So it's a purpose message that's designed by its function to be effective and persuasive. So rhetoric always functions. It's not announced, it's not acknowledged, and it's used by those who deny it and defame it. Rhetoric, or an artifact, a rhetorical artifact, is always created through any form of communication. Typically it utilizes linear communication, which is the graphic you see underneath there of source, message, receiver. The artifact or the communication is constructed by a source. It's turned into a message and sent to a receiver. This type of communication assumes that all communication takes place along a line and can be tracked from a source, message, and receiver and go back and forth across this line. That communication does not deviate from that. And in rhetoric, it's very important to understand that that's a very important function of the persuasive nature of rhetoric, especially when you're trying to utilize logos, pathos, and ethos, making sure that that source, message, receiver model stays true. However, when we get into ritualistic communication, it's important to know that we don't really deviate from this form of communication taking place across the line. Ritualistic communication scholars typically believe that communication is not about the impartation of messages to and from a receiver, bouncing it back and forth from one another, like playing ping pong. Rather, communication is about the ritual of communing with one another. That it's not really about what we're saying, but it's about communing and building a community and coming together with one another, and communication happens. Those are two different approaches to rhetoric. As you can see, a linear approach typically utilizes logos and ethos perspective. And a ritualistic approach to rhetoric would typically utilize a pathos and ethos approach. So ritualistic communication scholars don't really rely on logic more. They rely more on that pathos perspective of building that emotionals and values and communing with one another in order for the communication to be persuasive. It's important to point out at this point when I say persuasive communication that that's not a bad thing. We're always trying to be persuasive, especially as parents. We can see our children trying to be persuasive with us every day. Everything. So persuasive communication is always something. There's always something we have to say where we have to convince or persuade the party to buy into what we're saying. A spouse, a coworker, whatever it may be. And so it's important to understand that. What we're focusing on in this class is learning about what rhetoric is within communication studies, and not more importantly in learning how to be effective Christian communication scholars and using rhetoric for that sense. So as we go through a lot of the information this week and you read through it, do keep in mind some of the points from this lecture. Do complete your weekly review by Friday and post your replies by Sunday. Watch all of the videos and read through the chapter, and it will really set you up with some strong framework to move into the course content in the coming weeks. Like I said, I'm looking forward to getting to know each of you, and I'm really excited to serve as your professor this term, not just this week, and I pray you all have a blessed week. Have a good day. God bless.